Once a quarterback has become somewhat adept at controlling ball flight, meaning he's fairly accurate, before he throws routes, you want to start teaching him about where to throw the ball and ball placement. And this lock and load drill is one of the drills that I use to start to teach them about how to throw the right LTV, location, trajectory, and velocity, for when a defender is chasing a receiver. So we start out with this one because that's usually the throws when you're going to throw deep that you need to make sure you get over the defender's head so it gives the receiver an opportunity to run for a touchdown. So this is the first drill we introduce with regard to teaching a quarterback that there is a particular location, trajectory, and velocity for every throw. And in this case, it's over the defender's head, head height over the upfield shoulder to the receiver. So with lock and load drill, we're going to put a receiver 20 to 25 yards down the field. And we're going to ask the quarterback from the load position to throw it so that the receiver has to catch it above his head. He has to pick the right trajectory with the right velocity so the ball comes right on the receiver's head. And that's what you're going to see demonstrated and telestrated by me with the techniques to do the drill, as well as how you position the receiver.
So this is lock and load drill, and I have a split screen up so that you can see the drill on this side where we have a receiver down there that he's throwing to, and then we'll talk about the techniques over on the right side of how to make this lock and load drill happen. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to teach this quarterback to throw a ball so that it has the right trajectory and it comes down over top, right on the top of the receiver's head. So what the game situation is there's a defender that's chasing our receiver, and we have to throw it over the defender, but high enough so that he can't reach up and knock the ball down. So let's look at on the left what the drill looks like in its entirety before we go back and talk about it. So you see that the receiver had to put his hands above his head to get it. So if there was a defender right here, that ball would come down over beyond the reach of the defender. Now typically a defender, when he sees the hands go up, he can get from the neck down any ball that comes down in this area, he's going to be able to knock down. So that's why we're telling him this ball has to be thrown with enough trajectory to be able to land 25 yards away with a receiver with his hands up. So that's what lock and load drill is, and we're teaching him to do that trajectory. On this left side, what you'll see is he's starting with the ball behind his head, and this is what's called load drill. In other words, he has the ball loaded behind his head as if he's already taken his top of the drop stance, and he's going to push with his back foot, take a short step, and then he's going to turn his shoulders upward to get the trajectory we need to be able to throw the ball up in the air. So you see his shoulders tilted up. You see his left arm's going to tuck, but notice that he still has really good balance and posture. He's got a slight lean, which is okay because his head is right over his knee, as you can see with these bones. But you can see that his hand is pointing up and the ball's going to be thrown up so that it has the right trajectory to make this pass over a chasing defender. So there goes the right trajectory. Now the other thing he has to do is he also has to throw it with the right velocity. In other words, he could throw the right trajectory, but without the right velocity, the receiver won't catch it with his hands above his head. So we're working on what I call LTV, which is a location, a trajectory, and a velocity. So location is head height above this receiver's head at 25 yards. Pick the right trajectory with the right velocity, and that's LTV. And every throw has an LTV, and you think about what that is pre-snap and then post-snap, depending on where the defender is, You can change the LTV based on where the defender is. But in this drill in particular, we're working on that defender that's chasing him, chasing a receiver. It's a 25-yard throw, and we want that ball to go right over top of the receiver with his hands up. Okay? So let's go over to this other side on the right and talk about how we put him in the right position to do that. We want him to be in top of the drop stance with his back foot underneath his armpit. His other foot is under his front armpit. His elbow is tucked, and the ball's in this lock and load position locked in. Okay, as we mentioned. Now he's going to take a nice short step, put his foot in the ground. As he puts his foot in the ground, you see once again, you see the shoulder tilt. His left arm is in a really good, elbow is in a good position because it's right over his knee. His knee is bent. His knee is bent right over the ball of his foot. He has a slight bend in his back knee. And then he's going to turn his hip, generate arm speed, and notice now that the elbow is pointing up in the air. So you can see this angle right here that the bones show of his elbow pointing up in the air. Okay? He's going to extend that elbow up and notice the high release of the ball, and then watch the angle that it comes out at. You see how it's flying up in the air? That's the right trajectory that he's able to see and picture in his mind to get the ball to land right on top of the head of the receiver who's 25 yards away. So we're teaching him to throw anywhere from 15 to 25 yard pass. I do this drill with receivers at 15 yards because if you have a linebacker that's chasing him and you're throwing a seam, then you're going to have to throw it over that linebacker's head at 15. Or if it's a deeper pass, maybe it's a skinny post and you have an underneath defender running with him. So I do it at 15, 20, and 25 yards to get him to feel the right location, trajectory, and velocity of each of those passes. But the key mechanics is it's the same thing as step hips throw drill. Put your foot in the ground, tilt your shoulders up, keep your elbow up high, let the ball go hot with a high release, and let it fall right on top of the head of the receiver downfield at either 15 or 20, 25 yards, and make sure the receiver has his hands above his head. As you see in this picture on the left, that's how he needs to catch the ball. Then you know that they've executed the skill correctly. Okay, so that's lock and load drill. We'll go back and I'll show you the one on the left again in full speed. Tilt up, good trajectory, good velocity, catch it over your head. And then the one on the right, the techniques for doing that: tilt your shoulders up, throw the ball up in the air, finish with good balance and posture. That's lock and load drill.
So now let's take a look at some quarterbacks that I trained doing the lock and load drill, and then let's look at some game video clips, and you can see the trajectory that the quarterbacks throw this ball right head height over the upfield shoulder when a defender is chasing them. One of the benefits from doing this from the load position is that it really forces the quarterback to have to push against the ground and generate a lot of hip rotation speed, which then transfers to arm speed. So we're really also working on his ability to push against the ground from a good base with his back foot underneath his armpit and throw a ball 25 yards over a defender's head height on the upfield shoulder of a receiver, and he has to do that pretty much from a stationary position with the ball already pre-positioned right over his hip. So the ancillary benefit, besides teaching the quarterback the right LTV for a defender that's chasing a receiver, is he's also going to learn to accelerate his hips and get the ball out quickly, and when he does lock and load drill.